In the summer of 2025, an auction took place that you've never heard of. No paintings, no jewels. What was being sold was the guarantee that when you flip a light switch next year, something actually happens. It's called a capacity auction. Every year, the operator of America's largest power grid, serving 65 million people, holds one. For years, the price hovered around $29 per megawatt day. Boring, invisible, exactly how electricity is supposed to be. Then, in the space of a single auction cycle, the price hit $269. Not up 10%, not doubled, up more than 800%. And here's the thing about that number, it doesn't stay in the auction room. It travels through utility companies, through rate filings, through months of paperwork, until it lands in your mailbox. You probably think the AI gold rush is a story about technology, about chatbots and billionaires and stock prices. On this channel, we've watched it burn through investors' money, the frauds, the wrappers, the billion-dollar write-offs. But this story is different because this time the bill isn't being sent to the investors. It's being mailed to people who never invested a cent. Over the next 15 minutes, I'll show you how the most expensive construction boom in human history quietly plugged itself into your electricity bill, and why, all across America, ordinary towns have started fighting back and winning. Let's start with what the gold rush actually needs. Every ChatGPT question, every AI-generated video, every model training run, it all happens somewhere physical. A data center, a windowless building the size of several football fields, packed with chips that run hot enough to need industrial cooling 24 hours a day. One large AI data center can consume as much electricity as a small city. And the industry isn't building one. Hundreds of billions of dollars in commitments, the trillion-dollar promises we covered in this series, all of them eventually become buildings. Buildings that plug into the same grid as your refrigerator. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because you'd assume the companies building them pay for what they use. And they do for the electricity itself. But the grid doesn't work like a store, it works like a shared kitchen. Imagine a small town with one restaurant kitchen that everyone shares. The costs of the kitchen, the ovens, the wiring, the expansions are split across everyone's meals. It's always been fair enough because everyone eats roughly the same amount. Then, one day, a new customer walks in and orders 10,000 meals a day. The kitchen has to expand. New ovens, new wiring, new staff. And under the old rules, the rules written before anyone imagined a customer like this, those expansion costs get spread across everyone's meals, including yours. You didn't order more. You're eating the same dinner you always ate. But your bill goes up to build a kitchen for someone else. That, in simplified form, is what's happening to the American power grid. Grid infrastructure costs are socialized, spread across all ratepayers. It was a reasonable system for a century. And then the hungriest customer in the history of electricity showed up. The numbers tell the story. Since 2020, average US residential electricity prices have risen more than 36%. A Bloomberg analysis found that in areas near major data center activity, wholesale electricity prices ran as much as 267% higher than 5 years earlier. Now, to be precise, that's the wholesale market, not your bill directly. But wholesale is the pressure that feeds every bill downstream. And in July 2026, a report put a national figure on it. Expected data center demand was named a primary driver of $23 billion in customer price increases, locked in through at least the end of 2028. $23 billion. Not paid by the companies building the boom, paid by the people living next to it. In Chicago, the Citizens Utility Board warned households their bills could rise by $70. Small number, you might think, but multiply it by every household in a major city, and you understand why what happened next happened because America noticed. By late 2025, a national survey found 78% of Americans were concerned that new data centers would raise their energy bills. By spring 2026, Gallup measured that roughly 7 in 10 Americans opposed a data center being built in their own community. And opposition stopped being a feeling and became a scoreboard. In the first 3 months of 2026 alone, community resistance blocked or delayed at least 75 data center projects, worth approximately $130 billion. Read that again. Ordinary town halls, zoning boards, and county votes stopped $130 billion of big tech construction in 90 days. The town of Aurora, Illinois, passed a 6-month moratorium on new data centers. It wasn't alone. From Texas to Virginia to Ireland, communities started saying the same word to the richest companies on earth. No. More than 30 U.S. states now have data center-related legislation moving through their capitals. Even Erin Brockovich has taken up the fight, campaigning against what she calls the secret data centers, appearing at the edges of American towns. And then, in June 2026, the referee finally stepped onto the field. FERC, the federal agency that oversees the power grid, issued formal orders to 6 grid operators, demanding they show cause, explain in public how the costs of these massive new connections are being divided. In plain language, prove that ordinary ratepayers aren't quietly funding big tech's kitchen. The tech companies, for their part, say they'll pay their fair share. Many have pledged exactly that. But here's the problem hiding inside that promise. Nobody has agreed on what fair share means. The rules deciding who pays for a multi-billion-dollar grid expansion are being negotiated right now, in rate cases and hearing rooms you've never heard of, and the outcome will be printed on a decade of your bills. And the clock matters. In November 2026, Americans vote in the midterm elections. And for the first time in living memory, the price of electricity is becoming a campaign issue. Politicians have discovered what utility regulators have known for 2 years. Nothing radicalizes a voter like their power bill. So let's zoom all the way out, because this is the part of the gold rush nobody puts in the keynote. The investors bet money, and on this channel, we've watched them lose it. The founders bet reputations, but the electricity, the literal lifeblood of every AI product, runs through a system where the costs of growth have always been shared by everyone, whether they joined the gold rush or not. The AI industry didn't break any rules to make that happen. It did something more elegant. It grew faster than the rules. So how do you know if your region is next? 3 signals, all of them public. 1, a hyperscale data center gets announced near you, followed within a year by your utility filing for a rate increase. Those 2 headlines are connected, even when nobody says so. 2, your region's capacity auction results. That boring number from the start of this video is published every year. When it spikes, your bill follows 12 to 24 months later. It's the closest thing your electricity bill has to a weather forecast. 3, watch who shows up at your local zoning board. When the world's biggest companies send lawyers to a county meeting about farmland, the gold rush has arrived at your door. And 75 towns have now proven that what happens next is up to the room. Because remember that auction, $29 to $269. That number has already traveled from a market you'd never heard of into millions of mailboxes. And this November, for the first time, it's traveling onto ballots. In a gold rush, everyone watches the gold, nobody watches the meter. Start watching the meter.